All right. I'm Scott. He's Chaffee. We're talking about overcoming the biggest challenges people have to business success. We've talked about getting out of your comfort zone and senses of urgencies, not having burning desires. Last time we talked about fear of success, fear of failure, fear of the unknown, paralysis by analysis, not taking action. And in today's time together, we want to talk about belief, specifically lack of belief in oneself when people are constantly questioning and giving up. So, do you need to have a strong belief in yourself in order to be successful, Chaffee?
Yes. And by the way, Scott,
we might have a debate on that because I tend to be a contrarian by nature, and I'm just thinking, like, do you really need to?
This
so we might have an argument.
This is not counterpoint, Scott.
It isn't. Okay, so let's talk about belief. Why is it important?
Okay, well, first and foremost, if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to give up at the first sign of difficulty, at the first challenge that you have, and you'll say, oh, this doesn't work, or I don't work, or I can't make this work, so see you so long, I'm gone, right? So having a strong sense of belief is important in that sense. What I was going to say before we dove into this topic, though, is that I just want to mention that this topic can be very, how do you say this, deep, I guess, right? Like, this is
absolutely,
like we can go down a rabbit hole with this topic and spend hours discussing the power of belief and what it can do for you, or what it, the lack of it can happen, what can happen if you don't have it, et cetera, et cetera. So,
well, you and I go down all the rabbit holes we see. Like there's a specific dog that's bred to go and dig into rabbit holes. Yes. And I think we have their genes.
Well, I do want to mention, though, that we probably will only, reach the tip of the iceberg with this topic. And so I just want to, set that out there, that this is a very deep and important, very important topic to discuss. And that's why we're talking about it. So,
right. So how do people get their beliefs?
That's a good question. And so here is something that I am constantly asking people is, why do you believe what you believe? Right. And so if you go in certain, and I don't want to dive too much into this next thing, which is what I call religion. and people grow up believing in a certain religion, and a lot of people never question that belief, right? They never question why they believe in a certain God, in Jesus, in their religion, or whatever it is. And so, you go up to them, and if you ask them to question that belief, then they get offended, right? And so, that's the specific kind of belief that you need sometimes, though, in order to move forward with certain things. In order to move forward with your success, you kind of have to have that kind of deep rooted belief that is unquestioning, that it's just a part of who you are in order for you to succeed. So
I think in our early years, and maybe it changes later in the later years, like, and what I mean by early years is like 3 to 11, and what I mean by later years is probably 16 to 25. I think after that, everything gets a little more sort of solid, and it doesn't really change. But the question I'd like to ask everybody that's here with us today is, if you're in a place where you have elections, do you vote the same way as your parents vote? And that, like you were talking about religion, politics is another one. And
oh my gosh, politics and religion, Scott, we're gonna talk about the rabbit holes.
Yeah. And the reason I said you either accept your beliefs or you kind of do the opposite of the beliefs is because I vote the way my dad voted. And I was going to say my sister votes the opposite. However, I think she votes the way my mom votes. Because I don't think my mom votes the same as my dad all the time. So we're on gender lines in our family. But
now here's
like,
the thing,
that's
Scott,
just the way it is.
I will tell you this, is that if you do question your beliefs, right? If you do the soul searching questioning of why you believe certain things, and you come to a solution, and maybe that solution is the same as what you believed before, or maybe it's different. I don't know what it is. Only if you question it and you come to a resolution, now your belief is more solid than it will ever be, uh,
Right.
before, right? Because you've
Right.
questioned it, you've challenged it, and you've proven it to be true, or whatever it is. And
Well, true for you, right? Like,
true
so
for you,
this is
correct,
what I believe, and I'm very strong in my belief.
correct.
Yeah.
And so now your belief is unshakable because you've proven it to be true for you. Now, what I will say is that you should always constantly challenge your beliefs,
Mhm.
because there's always constantly new data. There's always constantly new information that's coming out. And so, it is a constant process, and it's okay to actually, like I said, uh, come up with a belief that you're able to make a core of who you are, of what you do, of what actions you take based upon those beliefs. And that's really important. That's really key.
Right. So two things that I often say when I'm talking to people around areas that are strong in beliefs, right, is one is I could be wrong, right? Because
Yeah.
for me, a belief is something I absolutely believe in my heart is true, but I could be wrong because there's a lot of other people that believe the opposite or something that's different. And then sometimes, because we have conscious brains and we have subconscious minds and we have unconscious minds, like I never think about my heart beating. I don't say heartbeat, beat, beat. My subconscious or unconscious looks after that. And so sometimes I find myself saying stuff and it's like, I don't know where that came from. So obviously it came from subconscious beliefs. And then I'll sort of finish it off with, I just said that, but I don't know yet if I believe it, right? Because when we have conversations, particularly around beliefs, we want to be able to have intelligent conversations with the other person. And if our beliefs are so rigid that there's no movement, which is another thing when it comes to beliefs, if I'm talking to somebody and they think that the only way to have a happy life is to be a grocery clerk and pack groceries day in, day out, I'm not going to try and argue with them, right? Like, have a great
Right.
life and move on.
So what I will say, let's think about this though. I do want people to understand this, is that having an unshakable, unquestionable belief is almost like taking a drug sometimes, Scott.
Yeah.
Because when you, let's say, steroids, right? Bodybuilders use steroids, and what happens is that they have this injection of energy and power, right? They feel strong, they feel motivated, and it moves them forward to build their body to a certain level that is unattainable without that drug, right? And when you have a certain particular belief, it's the same thing, is that you can move mountains with your belief. You can create huge change and move forward like you've never been able to do because of the power of that belief. And you have to realize is that there are consequences of having that belief, right?
Right.
And so with steroids, you build this huge body, and after you've used it for a certain period of time, there are negative consequences of using that drug, that affect your body physically. And with the power of belief, there are waves of consequences that will occur if you are having this massive change, if you're having this massive movement forward, in the direction of that belief. And it could be good or it could be bad.
Right.
We don't know.
It
Only
goes both ways,
there,
always, right?
there are consequences of having that. So, like I said, you can create and do impossible things with the power of belief. At the same time, there are going to be consequences that fall out of those things that you do, and it could be good or it could be bad. Just realize that that's the power of belief, right? It's like a drug, right? And when you have that unshakable, powerful belief, you can do amazing things. And just realize that, outside of those amazing things that happen, or after a period of time, there are going to be those consequences coming towards you.
Right. So
So,
if you're believing in a direction that is in tune with where you're supposed to be in your life, those will hopefully be good things. If they're bad beliefs, they're going to be bad things, right?
right.
Or, good and bad. I'm thinking, you know, I believe that, eating ice cream, a pint of ice cream every night before I go to bed is a great thing. Then I'm, 20 years later, I'm obese and have diabetes and a heart attack. There's the consequence, right? So you would want to look at that belief and change it. Well, yeah, but my dad did it for all the time I knew him, so I'm doing it. And that's one thing that I think that people don't think a lot about is like, where do these beliefs come from? And most of the time they come from our youth or childhood. Sometimes they come a little bit later. And in my own experience, I wanted very much to be the president of the company that I was bagging groceries for. And my father was an executive in the accounting department and the finance department. So it seemed like, dad got up there, I could get up there and everything else. But I was on the retail side of it. And the retail side of it in the 60s and 70s and 80s was very unenlightened, shall we say, in their management practices. And my mom, being married to my dad, went to all the executive parties and got to know all the upper level in the retail side, like my bosses and my boss's boss. And she didn't like any of them. And she didn't think any of them were good human beings either. They were crooks. They were manipulative. They were, all the things that, anyway. So when I'm about 20, I say to my mom, I'm really loving my job and everything else. And I'm going to be president. I want to be president of the company. That's my goal. And she said, "Oh, no."
What did I do wrong? How did I raise you wrong?
And I don't think she said anything else. So what do you think I did for the next 15 years? I sabotaged every opportunity to get advancement. So I became an assistant manager, and then I sabotaged a bunch of stuff, and then finally I became a store manager, and I sabotaged a bunch of stuff. And they had tests, and they would take a bunch of up and coming store managers that they thought could go to the next level. We would take the tests. There'd be like 20 people in the room, and it's 2 hours, and at an hour and 5 minutes, I'm done. I've checked everything twice. And everybody else is like, they're going right to the end trying to get these answers, right? So I scored in like the 95th percentile. In other words, not just in my company, but in North America, I got a higher score than 95% of everybody that took it. And I still sabotaged myself. And it wasn't until I left the company and I, got more in tune and some, personal development training and everything else, I looked back on it, I thought, wow, like mom didn't want me to do that and have that position. And so the little boy inside said, hey, I'm not going to do it. And then it would just take every opportunity to sabotage myself.
So your mom screwed you up. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, if I had become president, I would be 100 pounds heavier. I probably would have had 3 heart attacks and be diabetic. So, because I started looking at people that were, in those positions and or 10 years older than me. And I thought, I don't want to be like that person, but I'm in a system that creates, that's one of the things it creates, right? The stress, the hours,
and you'd be a big jerk too, Scott.
And I'd be a big jerk too. That's right. Because you got to fit in with the culture, and the culture doesn't change a lot over time. So,
since we've already brought up politics and religion, I'm going to bring this up as an example too, Scott, because you mentioned this, which is president, right? And I will say that if you look at 2 presidents, the 2 recent presidents, Barack Obama and Donald Trump, whether you like it or not, they exhibit very similar behaviors when it comes to belief.
Oh, okay.
And so with Barack Obama, if you look at his belief system, he believes that he is, the great hope that can make change and fix everything.
Yes, we can. Yes, we
right?
can. Yeah.
And if you look at Donald Trump, he believes that he is the great hope that can fix everything.
Make America great again.
And both of them are set in their belief that they are the one that can make, everything great or fix everything, whether it was Barack Obama or Donald Trump. And their belief is unshakable in themselves and their abilities of what they can accomplish.
Right.
And if you look really deeper down below that, you'll find that starting with Barack, because of his unshakable belief, there are a lot of people that don't like him. And the
Yes.
same thing with Donald Trump, right?
Yes.
There are the people that totally believe in Barack Obama, and there are people that totally do not like Barack Obama, and there are people that totally love Donald Trump, and there are people that totally hate Donald Trump, right? It's
Right.
it's the same dynamic in a different picture, and whether you like Donald or you like a Barack or whatever it is, if you pay attention to their beliefs and what they've been able to accomplish because of their beliefs, you'll realize that they're very similar in that sense. They're very
In that
similar in
way.
that manner.
Right. Wow. So how do you get that unshakable belief?
So, we start with, and if you start paying attention to this, where you're at today, right? Your belief is as you said, Scott, started when you were in your early years. And so a lot of your beliefs will carry through with that. Now, in your current life, wherever you're at, however old you're at, there's a saying out there. And that saying is that you are the average of the top 5 people you hang around the most. And I think you've heard that, Scott, right?
So I'm 1/5 Vietnamese.
That's right. Absolutely. I can tell just by your squinty eyes.
What about my accent?
Yeah, that's it.
Vietnamese accent.
Your accent sounds just like mine. And if you look where you're at today, look at the 5 people you're hanging around, look at their income levels, look at their personalities, look at where they're at in life and what they're doing, and look at yourself. And are you the same or close to those 5 people? And it's amazing. You'll find out that you exhibit the same behaviors as those 5 people that you're hanging out with the most, that you're spending out. Now, caveat, COVID threw a wrench into things. And so the 5 people you hang around the most might be your exact family members. And so you might, not agree with that.
Right. But what you're talking about is like right now, even though we're not in the same room, we're hanging out together. And so that's the kind of the new, I hate to say it, new normal, but you're still interacting with those people, right? And you're absolutely right. Like my life is far different today after knowing you for the last few years than it would have been if I didn't know you, because you have had a really good influence on me. You're a good influence, Chaffee.
Well, thank you. Must be that Vietnamese thing.
I love Vietnamese spring rolls. So.
Oh yeah, that's my son's favorite, by the way.
And then the peanut dip. Oh, it's great. So one of the things that so we have these beliefs when we're young. We usually get them from our family. We get them from TV. We get them from our teachers, what we learn in school. I guess our schoolmates a little bit too. Right? If you got people around you that are always bullying you, or people around you that are good friends, that sort of thing. And it becomes difficult to change those things. And one of the reasons why is physiological. Our brain, I hate to get like technical and medical on you right now, Chaffee, but our brain is made up of neurons and electrical pathways. And these pathways become like highway. They're like a little path in the woods, and then they become a big path in the woods, and then they become a road in the woods that's gravel, and then they become a paved road, and then they become a highway, and then they become a freeway, and then they become a super highway. And it's hard when you're driving down a freeway to go in another direction. Like all the cars are going that way and you're going that way. And if you want to go that way instead, you can't, because there's barriers and there's all these things. And I had an interesting experience about 3 or 4 years ago, because I was hearing something that was against my beliefs, or it was like the opposite of what I believed. And I thought, And I decided I would do an experiment. And I said, I'm just going to go and learn what these people are saying and see, what's there. And it was so difficult for me to comprehend. Like my head hurt. And I couldn't conceive of their worldview. I just couldn't conceive it at the beginning, right? And then what I noticed was I could actually feel new neurons in my brain firing off and changing. Like it was just felt like my brain was sort of moving around and changing. And then it was like, oh, now I understand what they're saying. I don't know if they're right or wrong or anything else, but so I wasn't like converted, but it showed me how physically difficult it was for the body to change a belief. And so and the reason I bring this up is someone may say, you know what, I have low self-image. I got a little belief in myself. How am I going to get it up? Well, it's kind of like, one of my friends said today, if you want to get fit, and one way to get fit is to do push-ups, and you decide you want to do push-ups, you don't do 500 push-ups the first day. You might only get one done. And then you work at getting that one done until you can get two done, and you build it up, build it up, build it up. And I think if we identify a poor belief or a belief that doesn't serve us or doesn't help us achieve our goals, then I don't think that we can just delete it. I think we have to replace it, right? So I'm not good enough needs to be I am good enough, and that sort of thing. And you're going to have this head that, no, the I am not good enough stuff runs easy. The I am good enough stuff is kind of running into roadblocks and stuff all the time. And you just need to exercise and exercise. I'm mixing metaphors like crazy here, but until you get that belief that you want strong and the belief that you don't want weak.
So it's like you said, Scott, which is, if you're on a highway and you're driving in one direction and all of a sudden you stop.
Don't get out and do push-ups.
That's right. And if you stop, right, or if you want to change directions, what's going to happen right away? Which is this big, huge accident, right? Because everyone's going to crash around you, and like you're going to, and pain and suffering. So it's difficult, and that's why a lot of people never change their beliefs, because it causes or could cause a lot of pain or a lot of change or a lot of,
discomfort.
Absolutely. And so you're correct.
Back to our first show about the comfort zone, right?
That's right. And so, changing beliefs is one of the most difficult things to do, because it's so embedded in who you are. And so now you're almost becoming a different person. And sometimes that's really good. You need to become a different person.
Yes.
Right? And sometimes, maybe, like I said, it's painful to become a different person. And so, as I said before, one of the first things that you'll do is notice where you're spending most of your time and the people you hang around, the things you do. So if most of your time is sitting in front of a TV on a sofa, and watching the shows that are on TV, that's going to affect your beliefs, right? And studies have shown, Scott, and I don't have any specific study to share with now, and I've read them in the past, is that the TV, the shows that you watch and the commercials that you do are designed to influence you, right?
Right.
Especially the commercials. They're designed to program you to buy their products. They're designed to, change the way you believe about certain things so that you'll spend money with that company. And so watching TV all day long does that for you. And so maybe consider watching other things, right? And so that's going to help influence you. Maybe instead of hanging around the 5 bullies that you've been hanging around, where you are dragged along to bully other people, so now people know you as a bully, you don't hang around those bullies and you find other people to hang out with. Right. And I do want to address this real quick, is that when I was going through this personal development thing and learning about this, and it says, the top 5 people you hang around influence who you are. And so hang around other people. It sounds like you just want to drop your friends like a rock and find 5 new people that you want to become and hang out with those 5 new people. Right?
Yeah.
And that's not what that means. I just want to clarify that. And what happens in real life, in reality, is that when your interests and beliefs and who you want to become changes, you will naturally gravitate or be attracted to other people. And so it's not like you're dropping your current friends, the people you hang out with, or the people that you grew up with, that you're buddy with. It's that you start making new friends. And then because your interests are aligning, you start hanging out with those new friends more often. And so you can still have these old friends over here that you hang out with once in a blue moon, only you'll find that you'll spend more time with these new friends because they're more in alignment with who you want to become or are becoming, right? And so
I want to take a hard line stance on what you just said, in that it's really important that you look at the people in your life, and there may be some very toxic people or one very toxic person in your life, and they've been in your life for a long time, could be a family member, and you need to sit down and make a strong decision, whether it's this is the boundary, or or I don't want him in my life. That's the ultimate decision. I mean, that's the worst case scenario is, you can say, this is the way I want to be treated, but you constantly, treat me this way, and I'm not putting up with it anymore, because those are things that negatively impact your belief system and cause you to not reach your full potential. And I know people who have just said, you know what, my mom is extremely toxic and she treats me really bad, and I love her, but I just can't have her in my life. So and those are very, very hard decisions, and they're very extreme. In 99% of the time, your family is like, you see them at Thanksgiving and Christmas and that sort of stuff, and it's fine. But you really have to look at your friends and your family and where you work, and just say, is this serving me and where I want to go in my life, or is this something that's I dated in my 20s. Well, I dated the woman I ended up marrying, and we would go out on a date. She'd be really, really happy, and then as I'm driving her home, she would get sad. I'm like, what's wrong? Well, I'm going home, and my home is, my mom is really depressed, and my dad is sick, and my home life is really bad. And I'm not saying she should have abandoned her parents in their time of need, but that was a real, you could see the change that, once it was like, oh, our time together is over. And so you need to look at, where is that an extreme event that is really bad for you on a psychological belief level, and then it's hard to make those cuts, but sometimes you just have to do that. And
well, and as you said, Scott, those individuals sometimes, as you're going down a new path, as you're pursuing new ventures, will be the people that are dragging you down, right? They're the ones that are saying, oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's crazy.
Come have a beer tonight. How come you're not having a beer with us tonight?
Yeah. Well, having a beer isn't as bad as again,
20 beers.
You're not good enough for that, right? Or you're not smart enough to accomplish that, right?
Wow.
Who are you to think that you're above your station or something like that, right?
Right.
And
you should be a grocery clerk all of your life.
That's right. You're not fit to be a president, Scott. And
oh dear.
That's why your mom, she learned that lesson, right? When you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So she just said, ooh.
We've sort of painted this picture that beliefs are incredibly difficult to change. And I wanted to talk about that first, because a lot of times people will just say, oh, I believe, I can be president. And then next week you're not president and you're upset. But they can also be relatively easy to change. Or if you don't have a solid belief. So I have a belief. I have a plan, and the plan is to spend 3 months in, say, Colombia, and then 3 months in Canada, my home country, and then 3 months in maybe Europe, and maybe 3 months in Vietnam or the Philippines, right? And I picked 2 of the countries randomly and 2 of them not randomly. And then I would just rotate between them. And I thought, I'll just get an Airbnb, or, I'll stay a couple days in a hotel, or that sort of thing. And there's a YouTube channel called The Nomad Capitalist. And I've been listening to him because he talks about doing business remote, in different countries and remotely. And it's fascinating to me. But he has bought a house in he has 3 or 4 countries that he's bought a house in, and he just goes from one to the next to the next. And he doesn't, as far as I can tell, do it on like the schedule I'm talking about. It's just like when he feels like going. And he was talking one day about why he had the houses. And I'm listening to him and I'm thinking, like, those are really good reasons. Like I could see my traveling being a lot easier if I was living this lifestyle that I'm thinking about, and I was doing it the way he was doing it versus the way I was thinking about doing it. So I felt like, and I would never, ever, ever have considered it without. So in 10 or 15 minutes, he changed this belief of I have to do it by staying for a month in an Airbnb to, oh, I could have my own place. And I just thought that was interesting. So I noticed my belief changed, and I wanted to share that because sometimes we just think, oh, it's got to be, you got to be really hard and do affirmations and therapy on your mom issues. And and sometimes it's just like you talked about TV being influential and changing us. And sometimes the stuff that you watch on TV can change you the right way, or in this case, YouTube.
So I want to build upon that, Scott, and say up to this point we've thrown out a bunch of ideas, we've thrown out a bunch of concepts and everything like that, and at this point, if you're taking notes, this is something that I think you should be writing down and absorbing and really studying. And the first thing I want to share is something you said earlier, Scott, which is what you believe to be true is true for you, right? So what you believe to be true is true for you. And it might not be true for somebody else, might not be true for the rest of the world, as a matter of fact, only it's true for you, right? Because it's your belief. And so the second thing, and to build upon that, is another thing that you said is that change can happen, or belief in a change in a belief can happen in an instant, right? So change can happen in an instant. And so that's the second concept that I think is so powerful that you need to understand, is change can happen in an instant. And that belief is so powerful because when you think about the one of the people that affect the most amount of change in people's lives are doctors, right, Scott?
Yeah.
And you've been a smoker your entire life, and you're like, oh, I'm smoking my entire life and I'm healthy and everything. And then you go to the doctor and the doctor says, if you don't stop smoking, you're going to die in 6 months. You'll see people stop smoking like that, right? That change in their belief happened in that instance because they believed in their doctor, what their doctor told them about their life or, lack of life, right?
Right.
And so, you hear these stories about people, like that are wanting to quit smoking. They want to quit drinking, right? They're alcoholics. They want to quit drinking. They go through AA and they'll, and they keep drinking and they keep relapsing and everything. And then you hear these other stories of these people that just stop cold turkey. And you go, how can they stop cold turkey? Well, this other person has been struggling to do all this change.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is their beliefs allowed them to stop cold turkey. They believe that, this is, I am making a change and I'm not, and that belief really, if you think about it, that belief was so powerful, it overcame the physical urges of the addiction that caused, that caused these people to relapse. Their belief overcame that. And so when you have a strong enough belief, when you believe in something that's true for you, change can happen in an instant. And it's not that difficult. You just have to make that change, believe in that change, and then move forward as if that change already happened, right?
I hear Michael Jackson singing in the background as you're talking about, there's a song he's got for change, heal the world, change.
That's right.
I swear, it's just, I can hear his voice like around the music around me. That was a very, very good monologue.
Well, thank you. I'll get off my soapbox now.
But Chaffee, we're at kind of the end part of our time together today. We're not at the end, but we're getting kind of closer to it. What would be some recommendations for change? So let's assume we say, okay, here I am in my life. Here's where I want to go. It may be, lose 10 pounds. It may be get a promotion. It may be something that's holding me back in my own business that I own. And so I've looked at that and I said, okay, here's that problem. And I'm introspective enough that I can say, yeah, my mom, when I was 10, told me this, and that's causing me to sabotage myself. What are some steps that we could take to change some of those beliefs, other than watching Nomad Capitalist on YouTube all the time?
Yeah, right. So here's the shameless plug piece, Scott, which is that studies, if you're looking at exercise, right? Exercising, studies have shown that when you hire a personal trainer, you're over 90% likely to show up and actually do the work that personal trainer does. And when you don't have a personal trainer, you don't go to the gym as much, right? And so the same thing with business, or you want to affect change, hire a coach. Hire somebody that's going to hold you accountable and walk you through and guide you through. Just having that person that is going to hold you accountable is going to make you do certain things that you would never want to do in the first place. So if you really want to affect massive change quickly, one of the best ways possible is hiring an accountability coach, or a coach that has done what you wanted to accomplish, that's going to guide you, that's going to teach you, that's going to train you to do what you want to accomplish.
Good points.
So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is
I was hoping you'd say, eat warm apple pie with ice cream. That was what I was hoping you'd say.
Well, after a tough session with a coach, you might want to. Then the second thing is what I call immersion, Scott. And I think this is so critical. And I use this analogy a lot when I'm working with people, is that, if you want to learn something new, okay, let's just say you want to learn a new language, right? Let's just say, choose a language, Scott.
Spanish.
Canadian, right? So if you want to learn Spanish. So if you want to learn Spanish, there's typically 3 ways of doing that, right? Which is, one, you can pick up an English Spanish dictionary and, figure it out yourself. We call that kind of like a home study course. You can just pick up something.
You can get Duolingo on an app, and it'll teach you.
The concept is that you're doing it by yourself, right?
Right.
So the second way is you could take a class, right? Where once a week or whatever, you show up to class and then you get some homework and you do it all yourself, right? And then the third way, so that's kind of like coaching, right? So a coach is going to hold you accountable every week, give you homework assignments, and then you do
Group coaching, right?
And then the third way is what we call immersion. And immersion is the best way to learn, which is you move to that country. And so you immerse yourself in that language and you force yourself to learn. Otherwise you starve or you die, right? Because you don't know where to ask for the bathroom, how to ask for the bathroom.
Baño.
Yeah, there you go. And
when you immerse yourself, you learn the crucial words very fast.
Absolutely, right? And so immersion is the key for massive change in a very quick way. And that's an extreme, I will say. It is an extreme because sometimes it is do or die. There's no going back, right? Because you're in that country, you have to survive, you have to learn, and it's like forced learning. And so that's the fastest way of changing something, is force yourself to change by immersing yourself in that new language, in that new business environment, in that whatever it is that you want. Now, having a guide, a coach while you're immersing yourself is the best of both worlds, right? Okay. So having that group coaching and support while you're immersed in something and forced to learn it is going to be optimizing your chances of success.
So that's the fourth way.
Correct.
That's the fourth way. And that's really interesting because, and I am learning Spanish, and I have spent the last year pretty much in a Spanish-speaking country that does not have a lot of English-speaking people in normal neighborhoods. And it took me a number of years to get ready to actually spend, because I had a belief from trying to learn French in Canada that learning another language was difficult. I still think it's difficult, but I've overcome my laziness about it. And I what I started to do was I had Google Translate, and I had all my Spanish speaking friends correct my pronunciation as I read the Spanish. And what I discovered was I was very good at reading out loud, but I didn't understand. So they would say something, I don't know, and then they'd have to do it. And then we would read what they said. And so that was just me practicing my Spanish speaking. It wasn't really learning what, the language, because there's all rules, and you need the building blocks. And if you know how to do the building blocks, you can construct a sentence. And I didn't know that. So about 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago, I hired a Spanish teacher. And all of a sudden he's explaining, well, this is how you put this, where you put this brick, this is where you put that brick, this brick, that brick. And it's very conversational. And so between that and being immersed in the country and practicing with my friends, I'm way better than I was. I'm not conversational yet at all, but it's kind of like I have 100 miles to go, and before I was stuck at 0 miles, and now I'm at 5 miles, but what a difference that 5 miles makes. And so we're getting together 3 to 5 times a week for an hour each time, because I'm in a situation right now, as you can see, in self-isolation, because I've returned to Canada, and I have less distractions. Actually, it's really weird. I had way more distractions in Colombia than I have here in Canada. And so I'm able to say, okay, what do I really want to focus on for the next 3 months while I'm here? And that's one of those things. So we've put together this plan, and if there's anything, beliefs and speaking another language are very similar, because it's, it's like, I don't think I can ever speak Spanish to, oh, wow, I can speak a few words of Spanish to, oh, I can converse with people.
What you said is true, because, when you're speaking another language, you have to think in that language. You have to think the way, those people are thinking. And so it's a different way of thinking, right? And changing your beliefs is the same thing. It's thinking differently, right? And so when and sometimes you're so stuck in the way that you think that that change in belief is difficult. And so when you make that switch and start thinking in a different manner, in a different way, that belief all of a sudden goes, oh, I get it. Now you can make that belief part of you. So.
Yeah, and that's really true. And what's interesting about learning the Spanish is he'll say to me, this is the way you say it in English, but this is the way we say it in Spanish. And he'll also say, we have no translation of this in English, but this is what we're communicating, but there's no way of saying this in English, which is hard to say it in English, because I'd have to say it in Spanish and then tell you there's no translation in English for it. But you're right, because all of a sudden your thinking is different, the way you construct the words and sentences are different, and then what the meaning is different, right? They don't say I am 25 years old, they say I have 25 years. It's like, oh, right. Interesting, right? So so that's a great analogy.
Awesome. And one more analogy, Scott, is that, I have a 3-year-old son, and my 3-year-old son is learning, speaking different languages. And we speak to him in Vietnamese, and he understands everything we say perfectly. And when he speaks in English. So we'll say, okay, how do you say that in Vietnamese? And he's having trouble speaking in Vietnamese, even though he understands everything we say when we speak in Vietnamese. And the reason is that all day he's watching YouTube videos, or he's watching TV, these children's cartoons on TV, and all they do is speak English, right? And so his thought process is English. And so we want him obviously to learn Vietnamese, and you're
gonna have to find a YouTube channel that's Vietnamese cartoons.
Yeah. Or we have to change the language to Vietnamese on those cartoons.
Oh yeah, you could do that, couldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. So
cool. Okay, so we've come to the end of our time together today. You've got your homework, work on your beliefs, and leave some comments or put some questions in. Next time, we're going to be talking about action plans or no action plans or no plan of action? Or is it if you don't plan to succeed, you succeed in planning not to succeed? How does that one go?
If you don't have a plan, you plan to fail.
There you go. So no plan of action, no strategy. Oh, I'll put those back up. No consistency, no persistence. That's what we'll be talking about next.
Awesome. So with that, we'll see you next week. Ask us questions. Scott, I think you're frozen, or is that me?
No, I'm just not moving.
Oh, there you go. So ask us questions, like, share, and we will see you next week.